So welcome to WTF Stories and Advice. I'm Caroline Cranshaw.
And I'm Daryl Gove.
And we are two hypnotherapists that like to tell stories and give advice. And it may not be wanted advice, but it's funny. At least I think so.
I still maintain that if people write to us for advice, they probably want it.
That is true. Now, today I wasn't able to access the documents that I had set up to do it. So I thought we would do a bit of comic relief today because sometimes it's good to laugh. And what I thought I would read to you, because I asked you if you've ever read these and you said you hadn't, is reviews of the Haribo sugarless gummy bears that are some of the best reviews I've ever read.
I mean, I'm a bit skeptical because we've gone from UFOs and alien abductions to help, my mum's having sex with my granny to here is a review of a gummy bear. But go on, I'm open.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't expect that would be very funny either, but I guess you'll just have to decide for yourself.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So these are Haribo gummy bears, which I personally used to love. I have not had the sugar-free version, but it turns out that in a lot of people, this version, I don't know if they make it exactly the same, has a sugar alcohol called mannitol.
I know the one you mean.
Yeah, so it's a sugar alcohol that's not digested by the body. So therefore, it can be quite a wild ride if you take it. So my advice while you're listening to this is don't eat, put down any foods. And if you are squeamish, talking about bodily functions, then trigger warning, this may not be the podcast for you.
My advice is to stop this podcast now, go and buy a packet of the gummy bears so you can form a decision on your own without being influenced by these reviews. And then after you've eaten them, continue this podcast and see if you feel the same about the bears as these people that wrote the reviews.
That's one way you can do it. I don't know if they still use the same ingredients exactly because of the reviews that it has, but we shall see. Okay, so the first review title is Performed Exactly as Advertised. Okay, to preface this, I will state that it is not good to upset anyone in the military supply network. This is especially true for supply NCO, non-commissioned officers, who can be both creative and vindictive to those who earn his ire. Is that the right way of saying that? Ire?
Ire, like rage, yeah.
Ire. One of my biggest pet peeves was troopies, which I guess are like young troops, who would walk into my supply room and decide to go through things on my counter or desk. It is for this reason that I purchased 2 bags of these sweet little revenge snacks. I briefed my minions that morning that the snacks were to be unsullied by their hands. I told them that I would know, and it would not go unpunished by both myself and the higher powers. They thought I was joking, but decided to not test my authority before my eyes. With that said, I placed the bowl on the back part of the counter just to reach of anyone who was loitering inside of my supply room. The rules were posted for all to see when they came in, so they were warned. A large sign said, if you touch my stuff, you will be punished. They decided to test me, I guess. On this weekend, we were set to do general cleaning and maintenance within the battalion. So my desk was rather busy, battalion headquarters supply room. I was in and out of my office all day. However, I made sure to take general measurements of my bowl of horror every time I came back. Shortly before lunch, my unholy wrath began to strike. My supply room is one door down from the latrines, and the row of male commodes is on the other side of the wall from my desk. It was the first, but not the last. It was initially heralded by the sound of Gabriel's trumpet escaping the sphincter of one poor soul. He hit the latrine and sounded as if he kicked the stall door open. For the next 30 minutes, I listened to the sound of live humpback whales being butchered by a blind man holding a chainsaw.
Say it again?
Okay. Sorry. For the next 30 minutes, I listened to the sound of a live humpback whale being butchered by a blind man wielding a chainsaw.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Brilliant.
It was not long before another troop, this time a female, made her way to the latrine. She came in from the indoor pistol range and had to cross in front of my door. I saw a pale woman with sweat streaking her face. She was hobbling with one hand on the wall for support and the other on her stomach, praying for just a little more time. For lunch, I ripped into an MRE, the Army Brown Bag Lunch, and listened to those ever-growing chorus of those who had so far snuck down half of my bowl of brightly colored, improvised colon explosive devices. I was not sure if the other side of the building was seeing the same activity in the latrines, but the smell reached my door by the end of lunch. Good thing I was stationed. Good thing I was stationed within infantry unit for the first 4 years of my career, so I was accustomed to bad odors. One of my minions did not return from lunch, so I volunteered another to perform a possibly suicidal scouting mission into the male latrine in search of my wayward soul. He was there and had been since the beginning of lunch. By 3 p.m., I was told that there was a unit being locked down and there was an emergency meeting in the battalion briefing room. I had a suspicion of the reason, but attended as I was ordered to do so. By this time, my bowl of gelatinous bowel ammunition was 1/4 full. The meeting began slightly off schedule. At 3:22, the sergeant major walked in the room and looked as if he had just performed a 3-day combat operation without sleep. The battalion XO walked in not long after and looked as if he had been intimately assaulted by a rather insistent horse. I used all of my military bearing to keep from cracking a joke about cavalry officers walking bow-legged. The battalion surgeon walked in and told us there was a high chance the unit had come in contact with a strange stomach bug. Roughly half the battalion was complaining of stomach cramps and explosive diarrhea. It seemed to be mostly affecting the headquarters and the company that was on the same side building as us, also the medics. Until the symptoms cleared up, the unit was in lockdown and in cleaning mode. I went back to the supply room with the intent to bag up the remaining evidence of my involvement, only to find the bowl was missing. My minions were too wrapped up to notice anything, though, so I began a search for the evidence that would probably land me in front of a firing squad. The empty bowl was located in the admin offices. Someone found it and decided to liberate it from my supply room for the only group that I didn't want to upset. But they had already consumed the remainder of the biological weapons. As I left with the bowl, I heard familiar sounds of incoming fire from the senior pay clerk's desk, followed by shortly after what sounded like Lama's breathing. That weekend, the entire building was cleaned from one side to the other. The MREs were consumed in the hopes of plugging the torrential flood of liquid terror, and every door and window was open with fans going over a cup of pine sol in every room. 3/4 of the enlisted and half of the officers were hit with this mysterious stomach bug, and the medical supply room was in desperate need of more IV kits. I don't know if my message got across, but it was definitely an entertaining weekend. Okay.
Okay, that's good. Do you think that's real? That must be real.
I think so.
You know, it makes me wonder, remember we did that podcast about the mushrooms a few months back?
Yes.
Lady that killed her family with poisonous mushrooms. Like, what if she was like, don't you dare eat my beef stroganoff. I know you guys are eating it. And everyone kept eating her beef stroganoff. So one day she's like, I'm going to put some fucking dodgy mushrooms in the next beef stroganoff.
Death caps.
And it's not my fault if they go and eat it.
Maybe. I mean, would you really be sneaking beef Wellington? That sounds like something she served up. You know what's a funny thing a friend of mine told me about? She had this job she hated, right? And just an absolute cunt of a boss. So she ended up quitting, got a new great job, totally happy. But this woman, like, she was totally happy in her job until this woman came along who was her superior. So after she left, she sent her, you can send someone a bag of dicks with glitter bomb that explodes as you open it. And they're gummy dicks. So it's like, eat a bag of dicks. And you open it and glitter goes everywhere.
Are they sugar-free gummy dicks or are they full sugar? Because you could have a double whammy there. Eat a bag of dicks.
I don't think if someone sent me a bag of dicks with a glitter bomb, I would not be eating the dicks. personally, because I would assume they were poisoned, right? Okay. The horror at 30,000 feet. This is
Oh
5
no.
stars.
Oh no.
My flight was leaving at 8 in the morning. After waking and trying to get to the airport, I forgot to grab something to eat. I usually take my time and do things in order, but not on this day. I was traveling from Boston to LA, coming home from a work trip. I do it regularly, so nothing was new to me. I stayed in the same hotel and knew the time I needed to leave to get to the airport on time. During my work trip, I stopped at a convenience store and saw these gummy bears and thought they'd be a perfect gift for my son, Charlie. He loves gummy bears and gummy worms. So the morning I was to head back to LA, I slept through my alarm. That never happens. I rushed out of the hotel and threw these gummy bears into my carry-on bag to make it on time to the airport. After speeding and filling up gas in the rental, I made it to the gate as they were boarding. I get on the plane and I head down the aisle to find my window seat near the middle of the plane. I asked politely for 2 adorable older ladies sitting in the middle in aisle seats if I could pass by to my seat. They obliged. The lady in the middle must have been around 80, so it took her some time to get up and make sure she was holding on to something so she didn't fall as she stepped into the aisle. I thanked them and I sat and settled into my seat. Fast forward 20 minutes as we reach our cruising altitude around 30,000 feet. As I reach into my bag to grab my headphones, I see the gummy bears. Since I'm hungry and I needed something, I decided to open them up and have a few to hold me over until we land. I wanted to save some for my son, so I had maybe 4 or 5. But I had 4 or 5 too many. Once the bears had a few minutes to adjust to their new home, they began to work. It started with a little cramp, which is normal with gassing on a plane. You do not want to fart on a plane, so you hold it in. It's airplane etiquette. It would come and go over a few minutes, so I thought nothing of it. Then it got worse. The cramping intensified, the sweating started, and I began to notice the older ladies looking over at me. About 30 minutes into eating these bears, my thinking went from, oh God, these are just farts, I can hold them, to, oh God, not here. I had been a Christian my whole life, and this is the test. If there is a God, please help me leave this plane with my dignity intact. After waiting for the intense cramp wave to pass, I stood up and jumped over the 2 women. I could not wait for them to stand, so I stood up, my back facing them, and tried to shimmy past them. I think a toot came out because I heard one of them say, oh Lord, was that you? After reaching the aisle, I waddled to the back of the plane where the least amount of risk would be. To my dismay, it was in use. That left one bathroom left in the front. I looked down the aisle and I saw my Mount Everest. I had to somehow keep my wet cheeks tighter than Fort Knox while waddling forward while praying no one gets out of their seats.
Oh no.
After 5 minutes of stop and go, 5 minutes, I made it to the bathroom. I was pulling my pants down as I entered the bathroom. The door was still unlocked as the sweet release was underway. I thought I had died. I thought this was it. Even though I was on the throne confessing my sins, I thought my time was called. I lost count of how many knocks at the door there was, but I must have been in there for at least 45 minutes. But I did make it. I washed my hands, threw water on my face to calm me down. Opening the door, I saw faces looking back at me. Apparently, the seal to the bathroom was not airtight. Just letting just the slightest airflow from the bathroom to the main cabin possible. These were daughters, mothers, and children looking at me. I could feel the questions and comments. What have you done? We still have 2 hours left. Please divert this plane. As I began walking down, the man in the first row, first class, grabbed me by my arm. He said, hey man, where's your seat? Confused, I told him. And he said, get your stuff and come and sit here. You need this more than me. He gave him a seat. That's pretty nice. I was embarrassed and ashamed. I had a family at home waiting for me. I recommend these bears to anyone, but please eat them responsibly.
You know, isn't there another 2 planes? There's 2 planes that were landed recently because of like farting and stuff. So...
because of someone shitting up and down the aisles.
There was that one that was somebody shat up and it went up and down the aisle or something like that. And they had to... everybody was trying to clean it and nobody could clean it and they had to divert and land the plane. And then another one this week where everybody could smell matches, and so they had to divert and land the plane because they could smell matches, but they didn't know where it came from. They didn't know, like, is it a bomb? Is it the chemical? Like, what is the smell? And it turned out it was this lady at the back that was farting, and they were so rancid she was lighting matches to cover up her farts at the back of the plane. The look on your face.
Jesus.
Excellent. Oh dear. I relate too closely, too well to these stories.
Oh,
I did tell you on this podcast about when I was going to Melbourne in June, didn't I? And I was going to my brother's wedding thing and I bought some sugar-free lollies at the shop.
no.
No. Because you can't buy chewing gum in the airport.
Oh, really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
How ridiculous. You can chew it so you can bring your own, but they don't sell it. I can't remember the reason, but it's stupid because we all need chewing gum, especially, you need to pop your ears or you've been eating and you don't want to get up and go and brush your teeth because you're like packed in or whatever. So I bought sugar-free lollies, but I knew what they did. I knew. And so I was like, it's this tiny little box. And so I had like 4 of them, like that guy. Luckily didn't react as well, but I was like, I'm so glad I stopped at 4. I'm so glad I stopped at 4. My tummy was like, "Argh." Yeah, it's really bad. Jules, they're called. Juls, if anybody wants to go and try them. Or give them to a friend.
Oh, no.
So go, give us another one.
Okay, here's one. It was my last class of the semester, and the final exam was worth 30% of our grade.
Oh,
After a
no.
late night study session, I felt confident, but I had to decide between sleeping in or cooking breakfast. My eyelids chose sleep. My stomach later regretted this decision, and after several uncomfortable stomach growls, I finally decided to make a quick stop by the campus bookstore and grab a snack before my test. Since the semester was ending and everyone was going home for the summer, lots of items are on sale, including the snacks and candy they kept up front. Being in the hungry state I was in, it felt only logical to pick up the largest yet least expensive candy in order to get more bang for my buck.
Mm-hmm.
And there they sat. 2 bags of Haribo sugar-free gummy bears, buy one, get one free. What a deal, I thought naively. I would eat 1 bag before my test and 1 bag afterwards. As I walked to class, I gleefully chewed on these abdominal little bastards, unaware of the utter mayhem that they would soon unleash upon my poor anus.
Oh, no.
I sat down at my desk as the professor informed us that due to issues with cheating in the past, restroom breaks would be prohibited until the completion of the exam. I'll give you 10 minutes to use the restroom now, and this will be your last chance. Any takers? The demon bears hadn't released their unholy necromancy?
Necromancy. You know what that is?
Necromancy. No, what's that?
It's a type of magic where you bring the dead alive. So necromancer will create zombies or create undead they raise the dead. Yeah.
Okay. So the demon bears hadn't yet released their unholy necromancy upon my stomach yet. So in my moment of ignorant foolishness, I remained seated, still munching on those miniature bear-shaped bombs. After the students wise enough to take the professor's offer had returned, the professor handed out the test. I was 6 questions in when it happened.
Oh, no.
It started subtly at first. It was almost like a slight tingling sensation in my lower abdomen. I thought nothing of it, assuming my intestines were just doing their thing. Little did I know that my intestines were desperately trying to warn me of the horror that was on the horizon. By question 9, it happened again, but this time it was followed by a sharp pain, as if those little infernal hellions had orchestrated an attack upon my colon. I fought to contain the groan that tried to escape my lips. It was at this point I began to panic, that something was going horribly wrong and I needed to get through the test before it got any worse. By question 14, my worst fear was upon me. The Satan bear's burning hot, liquidy dark magic crashed against my anal sphincter like a tidal wave. I was able to close the hatch just in time, but those relentless toxic bears beat against it like orcs breaking down the doors of the Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
I knew I wouldn't be able to so much shift to my seat without risking a breach. I kept fighting through the exam, clenching my cheeks with all my might. Beads of sweat began rolling down my neck. Suddenly, a loud, gurgling war cry came from my belly, and the entire class lifted their heads. At this point, nothing mattered except expelling this ungodly presence from my bowels. With 15 questions left, I promptly wrote C for every answer and ran out of the classroom. My professor yelled something, but I was too preoccupied with the volcanic eruption that needed to take place before I could find sweet relief. I burst into the restroom like a Kool-Aid man, and behold, the handicap stall was empty. Sun rays from the adjacent window shine upon it as if it were a gift from God himself. It took me less than half a second to undo my belt buckle, pull down my pants, and finally relax my weary buttocks upon the toilet seat. It took
Oh.
no effort to expel this demon. Almost immediately, the floodgates of hell were opened, and the damned, liquefied soul of entire bags with the gummy bears cried as they burned through my sphincter and into the watery abyss below. I've never felt such simultaneous relief and anguish in my life. After 30 minutes of this, I immediately went home, dug a hole in my backyard, and burned the remaining bags of gummy bears. I leave with this. Do not, I repeat, do not eat these spawns of Satan. Not only did they cause me to fail my final test, but the anguish I experienced is something I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. The only place these godforsaken hellbears belong are buried deep below the earth's surface.
Yeah, I think she's got good reason to call them demon hellbears, yes.
Demon hellbears. Here's another one. 5 out of 5 stars. My God, make it stop. These bears ripped through my dung tube like a twister through a trailer park, leaving me sweating on the toilet with battery acid leaking from my fart box. Slow drip of an executioner's IV filling a prisoner with death. The burn of my colon felt as if I had been violated by Lucifer himself. If diarrhea were lava, my rectum was Mount St. Helens. If the liquid farts weren't bad enough, the burp smelled like hot garbage under an outhouse crapped in by a skunk that feasted on a bloated, rotted corpse. A bloated, rotten corpse. And then lighted on fire in a 100-degree day. I've thrown out 3 pairs of underwears thanks to these wretched little dump makers. Okay. Here's a review titled, Be sure to buy OxyClean too. Be sure to also buy a tub of OxyClean with this to get the blood and diarrhea stains out of your underwear, clothes, furniture, pets, loved ones, and ceiling fans. There was one, I couldn't find it, where there was a great one where it was a guy on a date.
Uh-huh.
He had a girl over to his house. I'll see if I can find it. But yeah, so this poor guy has this girl that he's like really been into, and he eats some right before she comes over and is like, oh my God.
Oh no.
And spends like half the date in the toilet, and then he comes out and he had them in a bowl on the table, and he comes out and the bowl was empty. So the girl had been sitting there eating the gummy bears.
Oh no.
And she's like, I think I need to get out of the toilet. And just goes fucking. Oh.
See, it's actually
Some of these
funnier.
are
You're
just-
funnier just retelling it in your words. they're
it's
funny,
just-
but you're funnier. So
Yeah. There's a whole bunch. I'll see.
see if I can find one.
Okay, here we go. Oh man. Words cannot express what happened to me after eating these. The gummy bear cleanse. If you are someone who could tolerate this sugar substitute, enjoy. If you're like the dozens of people that tried my order, run. First of all, for taste, I would rate these a 5. So good. Soft, true to taste, fruit flavors, like the sugar variety. I was a happy camper. But, or should I say but, spelled with 2 T's, not long after eating about 20 of these, all hell broke loose. I had a gastrointestinal experience like nothing I've ever imagined. Cramps, sweating, bloating beyond my worst nightmare. I had food poisoning from some bad shellfish, and that was like a skip in the park compared to what was going on inside of me.
Oh no.
And then came the flatulence. Heavens to Murgatroyd, the sounds like trumpets calling the demons back to hell. The stench, like 1,000 rotting corpses vomited. I couldn't stay in one room for fear of succumbing to my own odors. Okay. Oh, but wait, there's more. What came out of me felt like someone trying to funnel Niagara Falls through a coffee straw. I swear my sphincters was screaming. And it went on for hours. I felt violated when it was over, which I think might have been sometime in the early morning of the next day. There was stuff coming out of me that I ate at my wedding in 2005. I had 5 pounds of these innocent-looking, delicious-tasting hell bears. So I told a friend about what happened to me, thinking it had to be some type of sensitivity that I had to the sugar substitute. And in spite of my warnings and graphic descriptions, she decided to take her chances and take them off my hands. Silly woman. All the same for her, and a phone call from her while on the toilet, because you will kind of end up living in the bathroom for a while, telling me she really wished she had listened. I think she was crying. Her sister was skeptical and suspected we were exaggerating. She took them to work since there's still a 99% of a 5-pound bag left. You can imagine, like 2.5 kilo bag of gummy bears, pretty big. She works for a construction company where there's builders, roofers, house painters, landscapers, etc.
Oh no.
Lots of people who genuinely have limited access to toilets on a given day. I can't imagine where all these poor men or women poop that day. I keep visioning men on roofs crossing their legs trying to decide if they can make it down the ladder or if they should just jump. If you order these, best of luck. And please don't do a video review during the aftershocks.
No.
Well, you know what's interesting is I find, and I don't know what your experience is, it's like I help a lot of people with fear of flying. I've got a product that helps people with fear of flying that I sell. And I find for, let's say, 80% of the people who are afraid of flying, it's not of like the plane crashing, it's the fear that they're going to shit their pants in front of everybody. And it's funny, I got a whole new spat of people when that story came out about that person running up and down the aisle shitting. They literally had to pull up the carpets. That was that bad. And so most of these people have IBS, or they've had something bad happen. Or I had one client who had been on one of those little planes going over the Marlborough Sounds. Marlborough Sounds is in New Zealand. It's this beautiful place in the South Island that it looks like out of Lord of the Rings, right? And there's these beautiful cliffs and this water, and it's stunning. And it's a mountain range, and you go on these tiny little planes. I am never afraid of flying, but I was not shitting my pants doing this flight over the Marlborough Sound because you just bump along this tiny little plane, and I literally got quite panicked doing it. So I had a client who did it, got crampy, stomach pain, was like, oh my God, I've got to go to the toilet. And they're like, okay, there is one in the back. And it's just a little toilet, and you bring a screen up and it comes up to your chest. And you're in this tiny little plane. And so they had to like sit and have explosive diarrhea in front of the other people on the plane. And while your whole, like from your chest up is out from the privacy screen. So they were pretty traumatized.
Oh no.
Can you imagine? And then he's like, the smell was terrible. He said I was crying. Other people were gagging and retching.
You know, it's just awful. I do have many clients that are worried about peeing themselves, pooing themselves, or having a panic attack on a plane, and it's rather than the plane crashing. Yeah. But you reminded me of like why one of the reasons that I just made a decision never, ever, ever to go to Egypt. And it was after a friend of mine, and she was doing a tour, one of these package tours where you go and like see the pyramids and, you know, go scuba dive and see all the beautiful sights. And she was on this bus and she got explosive diarrhea. Now, it didn't have a toilet and they wouldn't stop the bus. So she just had to like suffer for hours having explosive diarrhea into a bucket with like the people in the seats next holding up blankets to try and give her privacy. And she told me this story, and she was just crying and sweat coming off of her face. And I like that. We talk about aversion therapy. That gave me an aversion to Egypt, and I will never go. I will never, ever go. It could happen anywhere. It could happen in New Zealand. But yeah, and now the Marlborough Sounds, flying in a plane, no, probably not going to go there either.
No, I won't do that flight again. The plane bounced around like a ping pong in the fucking sky. And I was just like, I'm gonna die. I really had to like, and it's funny, commercial airlines, like even smaller planes flying, like short flights, I'm fine. But this was tiny. I mean, I think 6 people fit on the plane, and it just, I was convinced that was it, and I was going to fucking die.
Yeah. Some people will say that this podcast episode was shit.
Yeah.
No, I like it.
It is a bit shitty or poopy or whatever you want to call it.
I think we should read more reviews from time to time. I think this is funny. This is good.
Yeah, I think it is.
Excellent.
That is the reviews. I
I,
thought I'd tell you because what I originally planned to do, I can't access the document because it hasn't uploaded and I'm at the office.
well, maybe that's just for the best. I was going to recommend something, but I don't want it to be associated with the episode about shit, so I'm going to wait till next week.
Well, if you have problems with shitting, here's my advice. I definitely have had issues with constipation. And what I used to do to try to deal with it is I used to take high doses of magnesium and vitamin C. And then I learned that taking vitamin C without bioflavonoids can actually cause your hormones to go out of whack as a woman. Like it can really lower your progesterone as a woman, which is interesting. So I'm like, shit, literally, I've got to find some other way to deal with this. And so then I started taking this stuff called MG Lax in the States, or MG07. I'll put a link to it. If you're in New Zealand, you can just get it at
Magnesium
Chemist
oxide.
Warehouse. Yes. Well, it's oxygenated magnesium. This stuff is amazing. And I think that if I didn't stay on top of going on a regular basis and taking things like psyllium husks and fiber and all of that, I would have massive issues and could see myself like being very susceptible to something like bowel cancer. But if you have issues with constipation, I highly, highly recommend taking this oxygenated magnesium. I'll put some links of things I recommend in the show notes.
Yeah, and like with the gummy bears, be careful because it's dose dependent. How it works is it draws water into your bowel, and it does create like a Niagara Falls. So if you're taking the oxygenated magnesium, you start with a lower dose and you can always take more. But if you take too much, you can't go back in time and take less.
Yes. And because otherwise it could be make it rain. What's interesting as well, like my partner has had this terrible eczema on his hand that he got after the COVID vaccine, actually, like right after he developed this horrific eczema, and nothing has cleared it up. And he's tried all kinds of medications from the doctor, done all kinds of cleanses, like done all kinds of diets, like you name it, and nothing has touched his eczema. And he started taking psyllium husks with bentonite clay. And he's done psyllium husks for years, but he started adding bentonite clay. I've done that on and off. They call them BP shakes, where you just add a teaspoon of bentonite clay and a tablespoon of psyllium husks and add that in a glass of water and you drink it quickly. And within a week of him doing this, his eczema has completely cleared up and it's gone. Yeah. And it's the only thing he's done different. And how crazy is that? I think it's always good to have some type of prebiotic, and like psyllium husks, you want those like fibers, you want to feed your microbiome, because if your microbiome doesn't have prebiotics, if it doesn't have the fiber that it needs, it eats your intestinal lining, it eats the mucus that coats your intestines. And so therefore we get leaky gut and we have like very irritated bowels, and it can cause all kinds of issues. So psyllium husks is really interesting. But if you're having some type of like skin issues or like I cannot believe that it's cleared up in the way it has.
Well done. Well done. And another note of caution, if you're going to have these shakes at home, you need to make sure you're really well hydrated. And again, start with a low dose, because if you take a dose of psyllium husks and you're not hydrated or you don't have it with enough water or you're sensitive to it, it can form a plug and it can completely block you up.
Yeah.
So start low, like quarter of a teaspoon low.
Yeah. So you drink this and then you drink another glass of water afterwards. You do take it away from medication because it can absorb the medication. So you want to do it on an empty stomach. But I did this years ago. But when I first did it and I was doing this big detox, after taking it, it was like you go to the toilet and it was like black seaweed coming out. And I'm like, what the hell? And so I looked that up and it turns out it's like it's the mucus that lines your intestines that it's like pulling away. But it was like disgusting, basically. It's crazy, but it was like a huge detox and I felt amazing afterwards. So yeah, if you get this like black kind of like seaweedy stuff coming out, they call it mucoid plaque. And it's not great, because if you have this plaque in your intestinal lining, you're not absorbing your nutrients from your food and supplements nearly as well. So what else can I tell you about shit? I think that's about it.
Well, I'm full of it for today. That's good. That's the limit. Many a person has told me I'm full of shit, and some of these
But your
writers
eyes
used to
aren't
be, and they aren't anymore.
Yeah.
It all came out.
No.
Cool. Well, remember, if you can't poo, of course, get yourself checked out. I was just on the phone to my friend who couldn't poo for 2 days. Turned out he had appendicitis. So he had his appendix out last night.
Oh,
So do get
yes.
checked out. And as these people have played tricks on people, don't do it. Don't get yourself into trouble. But do listen to this back and have a good laugh because, yes, it is funny.
Yeah. Well, on that note, all right, we'll be back soon with more of your letters. We've got lots of cool letters to read, and we're going to be back on a regular schedule.
So look forward to bringing some wholesome content soon. Write to us, wtfstoriesandadvice@gmail.com. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe. And we love you. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.